I come before you not because I'm guilty of any crime of corruption. At the outset, as I accept some lack of judgment in my own conduct, I want to state it categorically, Chairperson, that I've never engaged in corruption or facilitated corruption in my relationship with Mr. MacKay or any other person. I must hasten, however, Chairperson, to state that I did not come before you to piously present myself as a spotless, or that my accepting of financial assistance from friends who are in business may not have been perceived as a benefit coming my way because I'm a member of the ruling party. I stress that payments into my accounts from a friend carried no intent on my part to be corrupt, while I vehemently deny that such payments were a quid pro quo for anything. I am not unaware that such payments carry with them a perception of abuse of our position of power. These payments to me or the ANC were not corrupt or designed to influence any tender process or encourage any unlawful acts by our members who work within the state. During the relevant period, when the payments took place, I never worked for government or state. I had previously and much earlier had a brief stint in an advisory capacity in the presidency during the years 2009 to 2011. I then spent most of the time at the employment as a national spokesperson of the ANC. As I stated, Deputy Chief Justice, I did not come before you to pull wool over your eyes or deny that I often received payments from a friend identified in the questions sent to me by the Secretariat of the Commission. I came to assure you that such payments were indeed financial help from a friend. And yes, they sometimes involve figures that seem high. However, I assure you that it was due to my financial difficulties and sometimes need for accommodation as I traveled. And none of the payments or catering accommodation were offered in me to facilitate any unlawful act or my part to Mr. MacKay. I'm the first to acknowledge that some of the assistance, including accommodation and catering, may well seem excessive and extravagant hospitality offered to me whenever I occupied or visited MacKay's property or those which he had access to. I fully accept that it is the hospitality I was offered and I accepted. I also acknowledge that I knew that and I got involved in MacKay's donations in assistance in the ANC in its activities or events. I stress that I know no event when such donations of financial assistance to the ANC was given on condition that Mr. MacKay or any of his entities will receive preferential treatment by government. I appear before you to acknowledge the lesson you seem to give us every time you have an opportunity to encourage us to appear. And that is, we need to be circumspect about our relations and how they are perceived as leaders. One of great lessons I've now learned as I consulted with my own comrades and my own legal representatives in this matter is the need to take responsibility honestly and head on. The need to acknowledge that while I committed no crime or facilitated no crime, the needs of leadership are that I must avoid situations that lend themselves to perceptions that as a leader, I'm being bought or favored. In my main affidavit, I have declared the payments and assistance received from Mr. MacKay to the best of my recollection. I've sought not to waste your time, Deputy Chief Justice, with denials, as this would be an indictment on my own leadership and ability to learn great lessons and responsibility that come with leadership. I must state categorically that all the payments there was no exception that I would facilitate, there was no expectation that I would facilitate anything for Mr. MacKay to be preferred. Mr. MacKay never once assisted me or offered accommodation on condition that I should facilitate or influence a certain business opportunity. This is so because he knew my views about issues of state and procurement. And even when he raised some of the frustrations regarding this tender, I categorically told him that I was in no position to influence such decisions, nor did I have any inclination to do so. Had I perceived that his assistance to me was based on such expectations, I would never accepted it. To his credit, he has never made such conditions. He assisted me in my time of need, and when I sought accommodation in my travels, often the hospitality was indeed generous. I may be asked as to the wisdom of obtaining such significant financial assistance from one person. Well, the wisdom of it, we can debate, Chairperson, but I categorically state that it was never intended to facilitate any crime or unlawful conduct.